Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this bill. Many of my colleagues over the past several hours spoke about a variety of issues. Both sides of the aisles, both sides of the issues. They talked about the process, they talked about economics, they talked about personal experiences, they talked about the duration of the appeals, they talked about how the appeals are conducted and whether or not they are effective. But we all have in us some personal tragedy that we know and personal experiences. I will just concentrate on two events, Mr. Speaker, and I will not mention the name of the murderers because they do not deserve to be mentioned. In my opinion, they are murderers. I remember December 16, 1989. This was 7,089 days ago. 19 years, 4 months, and 28 days. I did the calculation. Julia Ash, a 23-year-old beautiful young lady in the east end of Waterbury, was going shopping. Some criminal took the air out of her tires, and when she came out of the department store, he asked her to change. He asked her if he could fix her tire. She agreed, and after he pumped the air into her tire, he asked her for a ride. Obviously, she could not decline, thinking that he was doing a good deed for her. Right before Christmas, he drove her to a pond that still exists, right in Waterbury's East End, gagged her, tied her with duct tape, raped her, and threw her in the frozen pond just to die. Not only that, several hours later he returned to the scene of the crime to see if she's still alive or not. 7,089 days ago, Julia Ash was buried, and this criminal is still sitting in jail. I was with the Ashes, with Mr. and Mrs. Ash just last week. We were doing a scholarship in the memory of their daughter. You can see the pains in their eyes. Representative Urban spoke about continuance. What is the continuance for the eyes and the mind and the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Ash? They lost a 23-year-old child who had all her life ahead of her. Bright young lady with education was buried 6 feet under. And we have a criminal sitting in jail 7,089 days ago and still sitting in jail. And where is the justice? Shortly thereafter, on Friday, December 18, 1992, again, right before Christmas, Officer Walter Williams, on a Friday night, was doing his duty for the Waterbury Police Department. A criminal shot him blank range in the back of the head. 5,991 days ago, 16 years, 4 months, and 26 days, a criminal sits in jail where the Walter Williams children grew up without a father. What is the continuum for their lives? Don't they miss their father? And why does the criminal have a right to take away the life of a police officer who was doing his job for our community, to protect our community? Why would a criminal of this magnitude deserve to be protected by us or anyone else when he takes the life of a person? This is not about the Pettit family in Cheshire. This is not about one specific person. To me, the family of the Pettit family in Cheshire, their lives is as precious as one 8-year-old African-American child in Bridgeport. To me, an 8-year-old African-American child has a precious life just like anybody else. And a precious life in Bridgeport also was taken. Why is it that we tolerate those people who prey either on the young, they prey on the females, and they prey on the police officers, and here we are debating to allow them to remain in jail for life? They do not deserve to live. I worked with Helen Williams. I worked with her when I was a young kid, being a stock boy in a department store. I see Helen Williams occasionally, Walter Williams' father. I look in her eye, and every day And every day, and just last week, we did a memorial in Waterbury for the police officers who died in the line of duty. And you look in her eyes and you see the pain. 5,991 days ago. Why is it that somebody like Helen Williams has to endure this kind of pain? And one time I was talking to her and people were asking her about revenge. And I quote, Helen Williams said, "It is not revenge, it is justice. It is simply justice." Mr. Speaker, I will be brief in my comment. These are my points. I will oppose this bill, and hopefully I urge my colleagues to support it as well for the people who were killed needlessly and unnecessarily while they are protecting our community, or a young lady who was just shopping for her family before Christmas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Candelaria.